How are we doing?
Good. We're connecting.
We're connecting?
I think we're streaming. Let me go back to YouTube. It says it's excellent, but I don't see any video.
Okay.
Right.
Ready?
Yeah, I just have to.
Yep. Yes.
Can I just get you to something on the side of the apartment? So after all this, I don't want to move
like
any
that.
gear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. No, you're
Is
perfect.
Barb good?
Perfect. All right, I'm going to start the stream.
Okay. Good. Ready? I don't know why you want that light on, but I'm going to leave it on for you guys. Really bright. It's good. All right, Mr. B, are we ready?
We look live.
We are live.
Woohoo!
Awesome. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you to these very brave folks who are willing to do TED Talks with us this week. Everybody picked a topic. They've worked really hard. Why you want that night with what they're going to talk about and practicing their presentation skills today. So give them a warm round of applause and be supportive as they do something really scary, which they're going to be amazing at. I'm super confident in them. So we're going to start with Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
That is bright.
Yeah.
So, I'm Mark Wallace. I'm a sophomore here at Brewster Academy. And what I want from you first is to imagine yourself in New York City for 5 hours. You could eat some food, go shopping, or go for a walk in Central Park. In those 5 hours, someone died from a drug overdose. Every 5 hours in New York City, someone dies from a drug overdose. 73% of those are from opioids. Today I will talk about opioids, what they are and why they are so dangerous. I will then give an example from my own life about my experience with an opioid addict and how it affected my family and myself. And I will end it on how to identify someone struggling with an addiction and how to help them. So opioids are a pain reliever. They are a highly addictive drug, and they are, some can be fully synthetic and some can be fully natural. So even vegans can be addicted. They are so addicting because they flood the brain's reward system with dopamine. Dopamine is a often mischaracterized chemical. It's thought of as a feel-good or a happiness chemical. What it really is the brain's wanting or its craving. When this dopamine floods the brain's reward system, it reinforces that behavior, wanting more. That's how addiction starts. My father was a businessman, an avid fisherman, and from what I can remember, a good father. He was also an opioid addict. I've been told that he started using when I was 3 years old. At 3 years old, I couldn't even imagine the things opioids could be doing to his body, but I would soon know. My mom knew what was happening and tried to help him, but he refused anything and everything that would help him. She wanted to separate herself and my family from him to protect me and my brother. I remember seeing him on Christmas Day in the hospital in 2016, thinking that's why I couldn't see him. He had been in a car accident the previous day, and my 6-year-old mind wandered in search of why I couldn't see him, and it landed on he was in the hospital. In 2017, the separation went into full effect, and without the extra money coming in from his business, we had to move out of my childhood home. We moved into an apartment in the same town, Virginia, where we stayed for 6 months. It was incredibly difficult for me, and I had a very hard time coping. I didn't know how my mom and my brother dealt with it, but they were probably just trying to protect me, seeing how I was only 7. After those 6 months, my mom found a job up in Guilford, in New Hampshire, and we moved into a condo for another 6 months. There, I found more struggles. I was in a new school in a brand new region of the U.S. I did find friends, and after those 6 months, we moved into a more permanent house in Guilford. There, my family found security and a place to stabilize from our trauma. I found more friends and also friends in the neighborhood, and I hung out with them a lot. I also played a lot of video games as a way of distracting myself from the trauma. I also picked up soccer, which I still play to this day, and that helped me a lot. My mom tried to help my father, and he didn't want the help. If the person is willing to help, there are a lot of ways that it can be done. You can try talking with them. Sometimes attacking the root of the addiction can help them understand that drugs are not the only way to get through this hard part in their life. If they require more professional care, they can go to rehabilitation centers where they can see a life without these drugs. In the event of an overdose, or if you're just worried about them, you can have Narcan, a drug in itself which can help reverse the effects of an opioid addiction. If you don't know someone is struggling, there are hundreds of ways to tell. But ones that are more apparent for my situation are disappearing from family gatherings, or just gatherings in themselves, financial struggles, neglecting their responsibilities, or just flat out refusing to help. When they flat out refuse, it can signal an even larger problem because they don't want it to stop and they need it. Opioids are so dangerous because of how easy they are to be addicted, because of dopamine and how they flood your brain with wanting more. They can affect their entire community and the people around them, but they don't always have to be, the effects don't always have to be as dire or as traumatizing as the ones that I went through. These effects can be reduced by helping them, talking with them about the root of their addiction, putting them into rehab to help them. And everyone is different. Everyone treats their addiction differently. So it's important to be mindful of how a person could receive help or receive their thoughts, and how they approach their addiction and getting over it or going deeper. If you see someone struggling, I encourage you to reach out. Help them understand that these drugs are not the only way to deal with these problems or with their trauma. A simple, "Are you okay?" or "Do you want to talk about it?" could save a life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for that wonderful TED Talk. Hello, everybody. My name is Noah Brolsch, and I'm a junior at Brewster Academy. This is my first year here at Brewster, and today I'm going to talk a little about how my dorm experience has been so far. Living in a dorm was something completely new for me. At the beginning, I didn't really know what to expect. You're living with a lot of different people, all with different personalities, habits, and backgrounds. So it definitely takes some time to adjust to the new environment. But over time, it actually became one of the most important parts of my experience here at Brewster. When I arrived at Brewster Academy, I expected my dorm and my roommate to eventually become like a second family to me. Moving into Sarge 3, I thought everything would naturally fall into its place and that friendships would easily form just by living together. Instead, I walked into a dorm where friend groups were already formed and people seemed comfortable where they were. Even though I got along with everyone and people were friendly, the friendships never became deeper than just being neighbors. We would talk in the hallway or in the common room, but it really didn't go beyond that. Because of that, I often felt alone, even though I was surrounded by people every day. My first talking point is about friendship. One thing I learned is that if people don't want to make new friends, you shouldn't get fixated on trying to force those connections. Sometimes, the more you try, the more frustrating it can become. Instead, it's better to expand your horizon and step outside of your comfort zone. That might mean talking to people from other dorms, joining different activities, or just being open to meeting new people. Sometimes the best connections happen when you least expect them to. For example, if I hadn't moved dorms and eventually moved to Sarge 2, I wouldn't be as close with my friends now as I am today. That change pushed me into a completely new environment, and it helped me build stronger friendships. Looking back, I realized that sometimes change is exactly what you need to grow. My second point is going to be about mental health. This part isn't really about me because my mental state has always been really stable. Instead, it's about my former roommate and something that made me realize how serious mental health and struggles can be. Not everybody reads people the same way, and not everyone knows when to say something or when it's better to stay quiet. My ex-roommate once had a discussion in the common room with everyone from Sarge 3, and it eventually turned into an argument where he started yelling and cursing at everyone. After several conflicts with other people in the dorm, he began talking to me about suicide and even asked me if I cared with other people in the dorm. He began talking to me about suicide and even asked me if I would care if he killed himself. I told him that yes, of course I care about him. I really wanted to help and support him, but inside I felt overwhelmed and unprepared because I had never been in a situation like that before in my life. Even though my own mental state was fine, that experience showed me and made me realize how important it is to respond with empathy and understanding. Sometimes people act out because they are hurt, not because they are bad people. My third and last talking point is going to be about conflicts. Living in a dorm with a lot of people means that conflicts are going to happen, especially in an upper-class boys' dorm with approximately 60 students. It's unrealistic to expect everyone to get along perfectly. While I personally tried to stay out of conflicts and ignore people who didn't like me, my ex-roommate chose a different approach. Instead of ignoring the tension, he confronted the people he thought had a problem with him, and eventually he fought both of them. But was that really the smartest way to handle the situation? When people hear that someone uses violence to deal with their emotions, they start to see that person differently. Unfortunately, some of that also reflected back on me because I was his roommate during that time. Instead of solving the problem, it created even more distance between my former roommate and the rest of the dorm. That situation taught me that reacting with anger or violence usually makes problems even worse instead of better. In conclusion, my dorm life at Brewster Academy was rough at the beginning, but in the end, it turned out the way it needed to. I arrived at Sarge 3 believing my dorm would instantly become my family, but I learned that real connections take time and sometimes require change. I saw how loneliness and mental struggles can affect someone, especially when you live so close with them. I also saw how conflict and fighting can push people further away from each other than bringing them together. Most importantly, this experience taught me that growth often begins when you step outside of your comfort zone. Even though the start was difficult, it helped me learn about myself, about other people, and about how to handle situations in a more mature and understanding way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Noah. Hello, my name is Philip Koffel. I'm a senior here at Brewster Academy. This is my third year attending, and this is the first time I'm ever doing something like this with the TED Talk. And today I want to share my story about nutrition and a specific lifestyle to maximize what many people see as an automatic process, or puberty. The sooner we realize that that puberty is a once-in-a-lifetime biological window, the sooner we can start training, eating, sleeping, and managing stress the right way so our bodies experience the maximum amount of development during it. I myself noticed this way too late. I spent my first years of the probably most valuable time of our lives going to bed late, eating poorly, and playing video games all day. I started seeing the effects of this lifestyle as I grew older and I learned more about this topic. I missed out on things like hormonal development, body height, bone health, and even brain and psychological development. The past year I adjusted, and now I'm living a way more optimal and healthy lifestyle, which required a lot of discipline, and it also caused some mental struggles. But during this year I experienced a change that I never thought was possible for me. I changed way more than I ever thought my potential would let me, and I improved almost every aspect of my life. One of the biggest factors is lifting. During puberty, the body is in its most anabolic state. Testosterone and growth hormone are elevated compared to almost any other time in life. For males, testosterone levels can increase up to 10 to 20 times from pre-puberty to adolescence, while growth hormone secretion peaks during the later teen years. When you combine that natural hormonal surge with resistance training, you amplify development. Training 3 to 5 times a week with optimal at least 2 rest days, focusing on compound movements like squats, deadlifts, rows, and presses, you signal your body to increase bone mineral density and strengthen our bones and build muscle. Mechanical loading from resistance training has been shown to significantly increase all of these, and our puberty is a period when up to 40 to 60% of our bone mass are accumulated. It improves posture, insulin sensitivity, and obviously the most important one, confidence. Because who is not confident in a body that we feel happy in? We can signal this our body. We basically tell it what to do, and during puberty, our body listens to what we tell it to do. But training alone is not enough. Nutrition is the foundation. Puberty is a construction phase. The body is building bone mass, muscle tissue, connective tissue, and neural connections, all at the same time. For this, our body needs the energy. Adolescents can require 2,400 to more than 3,000 calories per day to maintain our body fat and hold ourselves at a healthy, regular level, depending on our sex and activity level. This requires energy and raw materials. Protein supports tissue growth, with teens benefiting from roughly 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight when training consistently. Healthy fats, especially during winter for our thyroid function, we don't want to be cold when we're walking outside, even with a ton of clothing on, are essential for hormone production, especially since cholesterol is the precursor to steroid hormones like testosterone. Carbohydrates are probably the most important for the lifting part, since they fuel training and recovery. A lot of people underestimate this micronutrient. Micronutrients like zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin K, calcium, and iron are essential in hormonal balance and skeletal development, and an adequate calcium and vitamin D intake especially are critical for our bones. Things like chronic undereating, extreme dieting, or living off ultra-processed food do not provide any of the needed resources. I myself experienced this as well, as I had a time where I had chronic undereating, and I realized that my body was slowly fighting against itself because I was constantly tired. I did not make any progress lifting, even though I put in work every day. And I just felt how my body was slowly almost devolving. Another really important factor, which a lot of people nowadays especially underestimate, is sleep. Growth hormone is primarily released during deep sleep, with the largest pulses occurring during slow wave deep sleep, which is in the first half of the night. Testosterone regulations depends on adequate rest, while brain maturation also happens overnight. Sleeping less than 7 hours per night can reduce daytime testosterone levels by 10 to 15% in males. Teenagers need at least 8 to 10 hours per night, yet many of us sacrifice the sleep for screens, entertainment, or social media. I did as well. But sleep debt accumulates silently. You cannot out-train or out-supplement Poor sleep. The thing that also doesn't work is catching up on sleep. We cannot go to sleep late all week and then catch up on it on the weekend. Inconsistent sleep schedules impair metabolic and hormonal regulation, even if total weekly sleep seems adequate. People tend to go to bed late all week just to catch up on sleep on the weekend, which is anything but optimal. Consistent bedtime with the right amount of sleep is essential to protecting development. The last one would be stress. It's a really invisible factor, but when stress becomes chronic, cortisol levels rise. Elevated cortisol interferes with testosterone, disrupts sleep, impairs recovery, and increases fat storage, so nothing we want. Chronic psychological stress has been associated with suppressed gonadal function and altered pubertal timing in some research. Puberty is already a hormonally sensitive period. Constant overstimulation, comparison, academic pressure, and digital overload can keep the nervous system in a prolonged stress state. Adolescents now average 7 to 9 hours of daily screen exposure outside of schoolwork, which has been linked to higher perceived stress and poorer sleep quality. We see that a lot of things have an effect on our sleep quality, so we got to watch out for that. Managing stress through exercise, time outdoors, real conversations, and limiting constant digital input protects the hormonal environment necessary for optimal development. Ultimately, all of this comes down to habits and consistency. Motivation is unreliable. It fluctuates with mood, environment, and circumstances. Discipline, on the other hand, creates structure. Small daily behaviors become compound over time. Going to bed on time. Training even when we don't feel like it. Choosing whole foods more often than convenience foods. Managing stress intentionally. These actions seem small in the moment, but they build up over time. And during puberty, they shape long-term biology. Puberty is not just about becoming older. It is about becoming structurally, hormonally, and psychologically formed in the best version of ourselves. We only go through it once. Once growth plates close, they do not reopen. Once our maximum bone mass is established, it becomes much harder to increase. Once developmental windows pass, they do not fully return. I cannot change how I spent the early years of my life, but I can change how I use the time that remains. And that decision alone changed the trajectory of my body and mindset, more than I expected. The question is not whether puberty will happen. The question is if we treat it as a passive phase or a time to grow. A powerful opportunity for our body to reach their maximum potential. Because your body is adapting to your habits right now. So do not miss it. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Derek Molina. I'm a sophomore here at Brewster Academy, and it's been like, my topic has been briefly discussed, but my topic is suicide. We are currently living in a mental health epidemic, yet mental health is still something many people feel uncomfortable talking about. Because of that silence, many people who are struggling end up feeling completely alone. Suicide is one of the most significant problems in society today, with hundreds of thousands dying every year. People think it is a topic too sensitive to discuss. However, the reality is that it's not talked upon enough. I feel like I can discuss this topic because I have my own journey with it, and I'm glad that I talked to the people and got help when I could. Thinking that people who have a harsher journey than me, that don't get help or can't advocate for themselves, is gut-wrenching. Today, I want to share with you the difference between feeling sad versus suicidal. Secondly, I want to talk to you about whether someone else feels suicidal and what you can do to help them. Finally, I want to speak with you about spreading awareness. Topic 1. The difference I want to talk about is something that affects so many people, but isn't always spoken about openly. First, I want to talk about feeling sad. Everyone feels sad. Everyone feels sad sometimes. It is a normal human emotion. Bad days, disappointment, stress, or loneliness can all bring it on. Feeling sad doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. I want to explain the difference between feeling sad versus suicidal. Sadness is an emotion that comes and goes. Suicidal thoughts, however, are much more serious and often involve feeling hopeless, trapped, or that things will never get better.
It's important to understand that these are not the same, and recognizing the difference can help someone get the right kind of support. Another important difference is that sadness usually is, like, it doesn't like leave room for hope, but like it's like much more easier to like recover from. Suicidal thoughts, however, are very not. In fact, people are more afraid of becoming a burden to others rather than talking about their problems. And exactly 12.8 million people seriously thought about suicide, and 3.7 made plans for it. Topic 2. If someone feels really bad, don't overthink it. Just show up for them. You don't need some perfect speech or some life-changing advice. Just sit with them, let them talk, let them cry. Even saying, I don't know exactly what to say, but I care about you, can mean everything to them. When someone else feels low, they usually aren't looking for solutions. They just don't want to feel alone. Remember that you don't have to handle it all by yourself either. If they seem really overwhelmed, it's okay to help them reach out to a trusted adult, a counselor, a therapist, a teacher even. Checking in later, sending a simple text message saying if they're okay, or just sticking by them during the day can make a huge difference. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness are the ones that matter the most. Listening without judgment can make someone feel safe enough to open up about what they're going through. And if they don't, that's totally okay. Sometimes just knowing that someone genuinely cares about them can be the first step toward them getting the help that they need. Topic 3, spreading awareness. Let's put you into perspective. A single number is a teenager struggling in school. A divorced dad that was tired of life because he lost his 2 kids in custody. A grandma who spent so long grieving her husband that she can't take it anymore. A 10-year-old child can't stop his parents fighting so much that it's too much to bear. These are just some examples. And this only makes up 4 deaths. Just imagine 720,000 people. It's crazy. 82 people killing themselves every hour. 1 or 2 every minute. By the time I write this, thousands will be dead. And it's all because of suicide. These numbers show that this crisis is happening everywhere, not just America. If someone talks about mental health, it helps break the stigma that often prevents them from, like if someone trying to come up with an example, but we can ignore them. We can. It's too big. It's too big of a problem. The more people who understand the signs and are willing to have these conversations, the more lives we might be able to save. By the time I'm done, maybe this will be like a difference in the world. And what's crazy is that last year, 50% of the LGBTQ plus community wanted mental health care. They couldn't get it. Out of so many different ways to get it, they couldn't. Just crazy to me. Researching this was mind-boggling. Unfortunately, more than 72,000 people died and passed away globally last year, committing suicide. In the United States alone, suicide has been one of the top leading death causes in the entire country. Suicide is not a rare issue. It is a major health crisis that is secretly disrupting our world today. Millions are affected, and the majority is families losing their loved ones due to it. If you have a loved one who's communicating with you differently, that might be a silent cry for help. If you are personally struggling with suicidal thoughts, talk to your parents or guardian immediately. And remember that you are never alone, no matter what. If you don't have a guardian, you can always talk to a local therapist or a trusted friend. Maybe that's what can help you. If you feel like you're in a mental crisis, please call 988, which is the National Crisis Hotline. And the people who talk will surely help a ton. They're licensed therapists or they go to training with them. Before you do anything to harm yourself, always ask yourself this: will I regret doing this action in 1 day, 1 week, 1 month? And think that what you're about to do to your own body will not be undoable. Because sometimes saving a life doesn't start with a big action. It just starts with asking, are you okay?
That concludes our program. So can we have another round of applause for these incredibly brave people? This is very hard this week. I'm super proud of you guys. Good job. Thank you. Now you can go get dinner. Awesome. Thanks for coming out, everyone.
Nice work, guys.
Yeah, good job. So long.
Yeah, heavy.
They're holding together pretty well, which is good.
No, I didn't.